Jazz Studies program.
Oh,
He's a
sir.
fantastic saxophone player and producer and Ableton master. So give it over to Samir. How about him?
Yeah.
How you guys feeling? Everybody's good?
Yeah.
Ready for Halloween? How you guys are
Tricks and
feeling?
treats.
Trick and treat. Oh, I brought some candy. You guys like candy? I had a bunch of candy that I bought like for a Japanese tour that kind of ended up staying at home. So yeah, yeah. I'll tell you about that later. But anyway, so yeah, man. Just to kind of get started. So my name is Samir Zarif. As Steve mentioned, I went to school here, which was really awesome and was basically like the formative years of my life, which you guys are kind of, you know, as far as the students here, you guys are in your formative years of your life now. But I was here from 2000 to 2004, which I don't know if I look like I'm that old, but I am. And yeah, you know, it was great to be here. I got to study with Steve. Later got to start performing with Steve, which was awesome. With Ed Peterson. Terrence Blanchard was here during that time as well, which was really cool to be able to study with him. So yeah, it was great. After that, I moved to New York and have been living ever since. So in 2004, I moved there. It's been 15 years. It's kind of crazy. Like, damn. 15 years.
Yeah, it's a long time.
But yeah, so like I lived, I've been living in New York and like touring and doing a bunch of stuff. At one point in my career, I kind of decided to take a step away from just doing jazz and like really wanted to become a producer. In 2010, I put out my first record, and it was a jazz record, and it was really fun to do. I was like touring with a bunch of different friends of mine, and we had created some bands, and you know, throughout that I was like writing and performing some of my own music, and then decided to do my own record, which was super cool and super fun, but also very debilitating at the same time because I really didn't know what I was doing, you know, and like even though at that point I created so many different songs and like performed those songs and like, you know, really gotten that under my wing, the production aspect and like, you know, being able to you know, translate my ideas to the mixing engineer, translate my ideas to the person that was like editing the material, all of that was like just kind of over my head. And so after that experience, I really decided to buckle down and like just learn how to produce, which led to me starting an electronic music production team, which was really fun. And we did a bunch of stuff. We put out like 2 records of our own. We did like even commercials for like Oreos and Fresh Direct, you know, a bunch of like random stuff. Yeah, exactly. You know, a bunch of random stuff, but all, you know, basically people that wanted music, you know, were like hitting us up because we were starting to, you know, make a name for ourselves, if you will. And that just kind of became a you know, a thing where we were able to like really just like create creative music, you know, and the program that we were using was Ableton. And the whole reason for me starting that was to really learn Ableton, and, you know, to fast track into learning how to be a producer. And so fast track to 2016, only 3 years ago, I kind of disbanded the production team, you know, the electronic production team, and really wanted to kind of take a step in my own direction, you know, really get back to doing music that I felt was like really kind of closer to who I am as a, you know, not just an artist, but a human being. You know, growing up listening to like 90s hip hop and R&B, but then like only really doing electronic music didn't seem like a good fit. growing up, you know, playing jazz, you know, studying jazz, like living here and like being able to play with people like, you know, like Nicholas Payton and Jason Marcellus, you know, didn't fit. So I kind of came up with this moniker, FKAJazz, which stands for formerly known as jazz. And the reason for the moniker, it's a little like twofold. One is, you know, it's my artist name, but it also represents the music that I'm doing, which is, you know, taking the music across the board of Black American music. So like jazz, blues, hip hop, R&B, funk, you know, disco, all of that, and putting it under one kind of sound. And so the name of that, in my opinion, was, you know, formerly known as jazz, because in a way, like, you know, all of American music kind of stems from like that foundation of jazz. So, you know, that was kind of the idea, you know, formerly known as jazz. Some people would look at my name and say FKAJazz, does that mean fuck jazz? And I'm like, no, like this is a respect, you know, and an homage to the music that kind of like founded, you know, or is the foundation of a lot of the music that we're listening to today, regardless of, you know, if the people that are making that music know it or not, because that in a lot of ways is the case. But anyway, you know, before, because I'm kind of like, I get that old man syndrome where I'll like talk and talk. So to kind of break that up, you know, let me just kind of go through all of you guys' names. Tell me your name and also like what instrument you play, or why you're here at UNO. So just in case you're not playing an instrument, but you're here for a different reason. So maybe starting with you. You.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. My name's Eugene. I'm a music major here.
Cool.
I play guitar, drums, and some woodwind instruments.
Oh, killer.
I'm very interested in Ableton.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool. You play some woodwind instruments as well.
Yes.
Nice. That's great. That's great. Multi-instrumentalist. That's what it's all about. What about you, man?
My name's Jack, and I play the drums. I'm also a music major here.
Oh, cool. Yep.
Ozone, music major here. Started here in '97 and then
Yeah,
came back.
you look mad familiar for some reason.
Well, I came back here in '04 and
there
started
you
here
go.
in '04 and was here when Katrina hit as a music education major.
Okay.
And then stayed here till '06 and left, and then just came back last semester, and I'll be graduating next semester.
Congratulations, man.
Thank
That's
you.
what's up. What about you?
My name is Ricky. I play guitar, bass, and I sing.
Okay. Killing. Nice.
My name is Jared. I play trombone.
Trombone.
Yes.
That's what's up. Just keeping it simple.
Yeah.
Nice.
My name is Zoran. I'm a percussionist. My main strength is drum set, and I came here to become a stronger drummer.
Okay, killing. Nice.
My name's Martin.
It's awkward moments.
He was on guest list.
Nice.
Also a bass player experimenting with Ableton in a live context.
Nice. Very beautiful. What about you, buddy?
I'm Daniel. I play guitar. I'm a graduate student here, and I use Ableton and Pro Tools and Final Cut and a lot of multimedia stuff.
Nice. So you know what's up.
Mhm.
What about you?
Greg, I play guitar in the Continuing Studies program.
Continuing studies
It
program.
means I got out a long time ago and just decided to come back.
Oh, okay, killing. That's what's up. I didn't know about the continuing studies program. What about you, buddy?
My name is Jake. I'm studying bass here at UNO.
You said bass?
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. Nice. What about you?
I'm Paul. I play saxophone.
What's your name?
Paul.
Paul.
I play saxophone and piano. And, yeah, I came here because I want to be a better saxophone player.
Nice. Yeah, man. Well, hopefully all of you guys are also here to become better human beings, because that's important too. You know, I feel like, yeah, at least for myself, like, you know, being here at this school in particular, like, because it's such a small like program, you really get to not only like really get to know the people that you're in class with and things like that, but you really get to know yourself, because there's a lot of times, like, you know, there's a lot of space to just kind of like be on your own and just like really take your own adventures as far as like, you know, your instrument, as far as like everything that it is that you're here to do. So, you know, like the human being part is like the most important part. That's where the uniqueness of like what you're doing is really gonna shine and kind of come out. And at least for myself, you know, like I felt like it wasn't until like I started to like strip away the ideas of who I should be, because I went to jazz school and like went to and play this, and because I play the saxophone, you know, when I started to strip those ideas away and just kind of really dive into who I am, that's when like the music that I'm doing now like kind of really started to like just flow very naturally. So yeah, don't ever forget that. Like that's the most important part. It's like the human aspect, who you are as a human being. Bring that to the music. But anyway, so I just put out a record, which was kind of a 2-year journey in a way. The first record that I put out under my own name, or under FKAJazz, that was in 2017, and then pretty much immediately after that, I started working on this new record that just came out last Friday. Feels like way longer, but yeah, last Friday, I came up with a record entitled Beautifully Awkward. It's a love story, basically. Like all of the songs on the record are like kind of in a way like an indication or like a depiction or illustration of some type of like love story that either happened in my life or something that I just wanted to convey in a certain way. You know, kind of, you know, started with like dating that girl over there with the phone in her hand. That's Bettina, guys. She's super dope. But anyway, yeah, man. So I decided to do like, for instance, like I don't know if you guys are familiar with there's like this hip hop classic called "Don't Sweat the Technique." You know, CL Smooth and Rakim. I decided to take that and do like interpolation of that, but it was like I had like my hip hop artists talk about, like in the original song, they talk about the technique of rapping, and my song, we're talking about the technique of like picking up a woman off, you know, at the bar or something like that. So we kind of made fun of that idea in a way. But anyway, you know, let me actually like created this like little reel so you can kind of get an idea of my sound and what it is that I do. So I'll play this real quick.
Yo, FKAJazz, you a fool for this one. Don't sweat the technique, come on. Don't sweat the technique. Don't sweat the technique, come on.
Of our love constellation. Yo, it starts with me playing Geppetto or a melody of a more that need to sustain better. Best efforts met with the worst outcome. Feelings of am I good enough? Or the outcomes, they come way too often. Way too many reasons why we can't meet our time in a coffin. They say if it's work, you gotta work for it. I get it, but if it's love, am I supposed to hurt for it? Eat dirt for it? Should we push forward or press the pause button, reset and restart? Too many questions and not enough answers. AI, may I have this dance cuz
Stop growth lovers on the road. Where we go. This is someplace beautiful, where we're free to let it go. This is someplace beautiful, let the love just overflow. This is someplace beautiful, where we're free to let it go. This is someplace beautiful, let the love just like the stars in the sky, I can see it in your eyes. I can't move.
as long as we in the fight, never left cause you my right. The highest level you sing, get it right.
I look familiar? Word. Yay. This is a little real. I mean, the album is like 14 tracks.
On Spotify, Amazon Music.
My biggest fan over here. It's about 14 tracks, and there's like basically 8 main tracks, and then like some interludes and stuff to kind of tell the story, to create like the environment for each track. And so yeah, definitely check it out. Like however you check out music. I always have to tell people the best way to support the art is not to stream it, to go download it, and you can do that on my website, FKAJazz.com. But if you're a broke student and you can't really do that, feel free to stream it. It's everywhere. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple Music, whatever you rock, it's there. But yeah, and then also those videos are like those kind of like 2D things. Those are like, I'm like rolling those out on my YouTube channel. So like go check that out.
Who created those for you? Like, did you?
The 2D videos. A friend of mine started working with this really great artist, and so I just hit him up. The power of social media, because I would have not known about him had I not like been just like checking out a friend of mine's, like another fellow producer. He had like this like really short video, and I was like, that's exactly what I want, because eventually we're gonna do like real like full live videos, but like to kind of just have something fun to roll out and to kind of help to like create the story, the plot of each song, you know what I mean? Like, so like, it was kind of more from that perspective. It was also like super fun to like make cartoons of all my friends and shit, because that was like, we had like this listening party on my birthday, like in September, and like, I had them all come, and none of them had seen any of these videos, so it was like pretty hilarious for them to like see themselves like floating in the air, like singing, these songs that we like created in my bedroom. But yeah, man. Speaking of which, so that's basically a good segue into Ableton, because I basically used Ableton to create my whole record. Not just this record, but also the record before, Stereotype Thread as well. And Stereotype was kind of like my first like full attempt at like producing a whole record and mixing it on my own. Prior to that, I've been doing a lot of co-producing, a lot of producing with the other component of Pax Humana, the EDM production team I had. And then also like the mixing, a lot of the mixes that we were chucking out were like, we would do like a kind of a mock-up mix and then send it to mixing engineer to like finish our mixes. We would get a really good rough and then like send it to a mixing engineer to try to recreate. But after like almost a decade of doing that, we got really good at mixing our own stuff. But Stereotype Threat was the first time I was like, I'm doing all of this myself, and that was like really fun, really like just like a lot of work, a lot of learning, on the spot, trying to like figure out how to make things work, because it's kind of like, it's almost like cooking or baking, it's like a chemistry, like trying to mix, trying to make sure that you leave room for every different taste, like, so in other words, like making sure there's room for like the snare to pop, but then like for like that not to get in the way of the vocals and, this kind of thing. And so that, it was really fun to do that. By this record, I kind of felt really confident in a lot of ways, and kind of, obviously it's always going to be a learning process, and I'm like listening back to this record after it's out, and I'm like, I wish I did this, or I wish I did that, but at the end of the day, I'm like really happy with the results of it. And yeah, I have like a super dope team of artists and like, people that like really contributed to the record as well. So shout out to them.
So why are you using Ableton as opposed to something like Pro Tools or Logic Pro? Is just because you just prefer that, or is there's some advantages to Ableton over those other ones?
This is why he's a great teacher. He's a great student,
Right.
Great students ask questions and don't just let their teachers ramble. But yeah, no, I use Ableton simply because it's the program that I have been using consistently for like over 10 years at this point. I started using Ableton in 2007. And before that, for like maybe like about a year and a half, I was using Logic first. Logic 8, I think was out at that point. But then when I started working with this guy, Brian Lindgren, who became my co-producer for like the electronic stuff, he was like a real deep Ableton head, to the point where like he was creating macros and like getting his like, like all kinds of things to do all kinds of things, basically. So he was like a super like genius geek at that stuff, and I was like, yeah, I wanna get down to that. And then at the end of the day, Ableton has really caught up with Pro Tools in so many ways, as far as like the algorithms of like being able to produce like not only the same quality of sound, but like in a lot of ways better. And as a producer, producing in Pro Tools is very limiting. It can take a long time to set up a MIDI track, for instance. You know what's up.
Terrible.
Yeah, it's like completely terrible, especially for someone who's coming from like being a jazz musician, who you create your ideas are coming out so quick, right? So you don't want anything inhibiting you being able to like put those ideas down. And so Ableton was just like kind of that instrument in a way where I was able to like come up with an idea really quickly and like actually have it down like right away, like whether I would play it, play it on like a MIDI controller, play an idea, or if it was like, something where I wanted to create like a specific drum loop, so Ableton really, in a way, as far as like being a jazz musician and using a specific DAW, I feel like it's the best one because of the quickness of being able to get ideas out, like without having to like, stumble on, okay, I gotta like route this to that, and like, and then you're like, by the time you like try to get your ideas down, like, half of the idea is gone, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
So you find that nowadays you can mix equally well in Ableton? Because I always like Pro Tools better for that.
Yeah, and that's a stigma that people have because Pro Tools has just been around a lot longer, you know what I mean? But no, man, like I like have churned out some like really, I mean, you can't really tell by like listening from here, but like these mixes, in my opinion, like, not to sound like in the most humble way, my mixes sound fucking great, that didn't sound very humble, but but it's the truth, like next to, any industry standard mix, my mixes sound great, and I owe most of that, not just to my own ears, but also because Ableton is just really dope, it's like a great tool, and like, all of the wave files, all of the wave plugins, all of the Sound Toys plugins. I mostly use Sound Toys plugins, Sound Toys and like UA, Universal Audio plugins, and like they sound great, and it's the same plugins that you would use in Pro Tools, you can use in Ableton. I also like the way like Ableton is just set up, because one of the things that I do a lot is I DJ too. I'll DJ and play saxophone, and so I have like a Ableton push, and so one of the things that's really cool about Ableton is I can take, this whole session, for instance, and like just literally like take a section. Take this section, for instance. I can take this section and then consolidate it into a scene that would show up here and become a loop that then I can just like, trigger, loop it, play over it, go to the next section, that kind of thing. And I don't have to do anything other than just create my scenes. I don't have to like export it and then put it into a DJ program. It's like it's all there in one program. So as soon as I finish producing something, it's ready to be performed on stage, like pretty much right away. So and that's one thing that I think as a performer will set you apart, is to be able to like I have so many configurations of production and performance because I have this tool. So like I do some gigs on my own, just like Ableton and my saxophone, sometimes also with a vocoder, and then I do like I have like this monthly gig at the Citizen M in New York that I do, where like I'll have like 2 MCs, a bass player, and like my loops, so many, and then I have like a full band as well, and so all of those different configurations, I'm able to use partly partly because I have this tool to kind of then stem from. You know what I mean? So.
And you can do this kind of in a live scenario? Like
Yeah,
while
most
music's
definitely.
playing?
Yeah.
I wonder if you could demonstrate that.
You know, I would be able to demonstrate it a lot easier if I had my push. But I can show you, for instance, a session of like one of my DJ sets. Boom. I'm already working on a new album, so I gotta find. I think it's this. This is the. But yeah. Takes a minute to load.
Which push do you use, the 1 or the 2?
2. Gotta update, homie.
Yeah, I got the 1 right now, but.
Gotta update, you know? Gotta update.
I'm learning how to use it, then I'll update.
That's what's up, yeah. I mean, you know, it's not that different as far as like how to use it. The big difference between the 1 and the 2 is that, you know, there's like a LED screen that shows like in real time like all of your plugins, and you can manipulate stuff. So I love that because like, you know, like I'll like trick different loops as I'm like working through a set, you know, that kind of thing, you know, all sorts of things. So, but like this is like a DJ. This is an example of like a DJ set. Well, I have like a loop going. It's kind of hard to do like with just a computer. Sorry, 1 second. This is very weird to do like on my computer.
Did you make that, or is that a loop already on there?
That was something, that's a mix of my shit and like, cause I do a lot of remixes. So there's this song, Talib Kweli.
Stop.
This is Talib Kweli.
On the train.
Like, it's a remix. So like, if you listen to the original Talib Kweli, Good Morning, it sounds very different. But I took that and created a loop, and I play saxophone on it. Or like, I'll have like my MC like rapping over that. And then I'll go through different like scenes, you know? Or like, yeah, it's very limiting what I can do. Again, if I do this right now. Yeah, there's like so little I can do without the controller actually. So like but I have like different like things like these pads right here. So these are different like samples that I can trigger. Like this is a sample of Alicia Keys' Fallen. There's a Nina Simone sample, Lauryn Hill sample, Bobby Caldwell sample, you know, where I'll just like throw in like different like melodies on top of the loops that I'm doing while I'm like playing saxophone, while I'm playing vocoder.
So the interface you use, is that specifically made for Ableton, or is it
Yeah,
something?
this is a very Ableton thing that you're not gonna see anywhere else. And if you see something similar, it's because they copied from Ableton. But this is basically like the other side of Ableton. So there's two sides. There's what's called like the arrangement view, where you can like produce like very linear, and then there's like the I forget what
Session view.
Session view. Thank you. I was about to say the live view, but that's completely wrong. But the session view, where you actually like can create like a DJ set, you know, or a DJ session of like loops. Some people actually produce on this side, like they'll like, you know, create just loops and like produce from this side and then throw it into the arrangement view and then start to mix it and things like that. I like to do it the other way. Like I'll produce something on this side and then push it out on this side, you know. But yeah.
That was my question, is how, like, if you're being creative, which side you prefer?
Yeah, I definitely prefer like the arrangement view, because for me, like most of my ideas will like start with a melody, start with like most likely a keyboard or like keyboard line or chords, and then I'll build from there. And so I have a collective called True Culture that we basically just like established at the beginning of this year. So it's myself. It's a really great drummer, Justin Sweeney, and this really great rapper, hip-hop artist. I think he would prefer hip-hop artists, yeah. Hip-hop artist, BD3. What's up?
I'm just curious, like, maybe you could play some of your new album and like, so we hear a little bit what it sounds, because you've been talking about it.
Yeah. You just want to hear some music?
I mean, just to hear something and then kind of ask some questions about that, because I'm curious, like,
yeah.
I mean, do you have live drummer on it, or are you sampling drums?
It depends on the track.
Sampling the live drummer, and
yeah,
you know, or do you?
It's all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on the track. So, like for instance, the session that I had up before I moved to this was a song called "Feeling Felt," which I'll pull up again. Don't save. Which I'll pull up again. But while it's pulling up, I'll play you the song so you can hear.
Do you have it just in Ableton so we can kind of see it?
Yeah, it's pulling up. Whoa. Sample drums. So I created this drum loop with samples and then like consolidated them. So the drums are basically these three things right here, 1, 2, and 3 that you're hearing. It's like a tambourine like hit, that, right? And then these two drum loops put together.
The tambourine loop is on the MIDI track, and the others are just like.
Yeah, so like that, right? And this put together. This. Right?
Are those drum loops, is that like something you found in Ableton? Is it something that you
I created it and then like put it together.
But where did you get those like?
Oh, I have a very big library of like drum samples that I've just like collected over like the decades of doing this.
Right.
At one point, there was a drummer, this guy Chris Berry. He works with a bunch of different pop artists and stuff. Friend of mine who's like basically like, yo, like. I just created this like library of different samples, stuff that he like sampled himself, stuff that he like sampled from like different instruments, and he gave it to me like as a thank you because I did a track for him. So like I mostly use that stuff because it's all 24-bit. Like the quality of those samples are like really killing.
We didn't listen to the whole song, but is there any kind of like manipulation in that drum pattern? Like,
yeah, it actually like that song goes from 4/4 to 6/4 to 7/4 throughout. I'm not gonna play the whole thing. I want you to go listen to it. You know, like however you decide to listen to it. But yeah, there's a lot of different things that happen, like little intricate things that you can't necessarily see from here because I've consolidated. I usually, after creating a drum loop, I'll like consolidate it so that like it doesn't like the CPU goes down, so that I can then like start to like, because as soon as you start putting on plugins after plugin after plugin, it can get kind of like way down. So the more you can consolidate, the better. So like unfortunately, like I can't fit like a whole session, a whole like from beginning to end session on my computer. Like all of that stuff lives on my hard drive, and so you're only seeing like kind of the tail end of a lot of these. But like for instance, like this synth bass was a plugin that I used. Like I really love this one synth bass from Lush 101. It's actually, the company is called D16, but they have a VST called Lush 101. It's like super killing, and I use it for like a lot of different things. And so like that's from Lush 101. Obviously these are all vocals right here. So this is all at the top here. That's Natalie, her like main vocal and her vocal double, and then I'm playing like different vocoder backgrounds within that song that you'll hear as well. There's like, I ended up like taking a vocoder's sound from like me like trying to figure something out and then actually sampling that, and that's what the Samir sample is. Like yeah.
I was just gonna ask, did you convert that MIDI bass into an audio file to conserve space?
Yeah.
Like so the computer wasn't working as hard?
Yeah, it's basically
Okay.
for that reason. Yeah, to
Gotcha.
like kind of, because the VST itself, like is gonna take up some CPU, and a VST as big as like Lush takes up a lot of CPU. So at one point in the production process, I'll like start to like consolidate, all the VST down without any plugins on them, and then we'll add those plugins in later.
And you're just saving as like so you can
Yeah,
trace it
I'm
back
saving
to the
as. So like for instance, like the first session still has all of the MIDI, all of like everything that's like as is before like I started mixing. Because during the mixing process when I start to like consolidate things down and
Gotcha.
like really get the CPU.
So if you want to change something that you consolidated, you got to go back to
an earlier
track
session.
that hasn't been
Yeah.
consolidated.
Yeah, but Ableton is really dope because if you see on this side, right? So I can like go to, you can't see my mouse. Oh, okay, yeah, you can't see my mouse.
Yeah.
Oh, you can. It's right here. Yeah. So you see that sign that says current project. So one of the cool things is I can go to current project and then go to a previous session and then just drop it in to my new session and then manipulate it however I need. Like for instance, like if I realize I put like a wrong chord somewhere and so I need to, and I already consolidated, I can like pull that MIDI back in, fix what I need to fix, and then consolidate it again, and then you're back to like mixing again, which is like super cool, and something you can't do with like Pro Tools, for instance. So.
And that's all because the computer just can't handle that much processing.
Yeah, and there are computers that you know, if you soup it up enough, it can, you know. But like, I also think it's kind of, you know, it's important at least when your audio is being when audio is being run, is more consistent than when MIDI is being run.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, regardless of like the CPU, I will also, like, just for the sake of like it being consistent.
It's like a safety thing.
It's a safety thing, you know. Like I'll consolidate something down just so that, like, you know, when the computer is reading a MIDI note, you know, the velocity might be like a slightly different. And this is like minuscule changes that like will annoy the fuck out of me, and maybe somebody else won't hear it. But like, because I hear it, I'm like, all right, let's
So
consolidate.
what's your worst nightmare, like in a live scenario with all this? You know, because I mean, you know,
Wow.
that's always the problem. You know, I've dealt with electronics a lot, and I'm always worried about just something crashing or not,
Yeah.
something not working or whatever.
Yeah.
Have you? I'm sure you experienced a lot of that, and then
I
how do you
have.
minimize that?
Yeah, man. I like, it's kind of funny because I just did this one gig and the bass player was like, man, like, you're like the only guy who I do like these kind of gigs with where like the person's like computer doesn't crash or blah blah blah. And I was like, well, man, like, speak to me 5 years ago. That was a different case, you know. And a lot of it is just like using the right gear, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes, like, you know, I was just broke, so I had like shitty gear, and so you're gonna have that problem. Now my computer is up to speed, you know, like I'm using like, you know, universal audio equipment, and like this stuff is just like, you know, it's banging, it's like right on. And then you also know the limitations of the gear that you have too. So like, I'm not gonna run like, you know, 96 hertz like audio on my like on my session, because 44 in a live scenario, 44.1 is good for, you know, it's good for what it needs to be, and is gonna be like my computer can handle it no matter like how hot it gets, you know. Yeah.
And so along with the MIDI tracks that you condense into audio files, you'll take like all the effects and do that too, so that your session that you play when you're playing live, it's not like the computer's not thinking about the effects and stuff.
It depends. Some effects I won't consolidate. For instance, in this case, this was like the final mix before I I rendered it, right? So there's a ton of effects on here. Some of these effects, if I were then to like perform with, I would consolidate it all, like just like dumb it down to straight audio. But you know, it's kind of a creative choice that you need to make for yourself, whether you want something so that you can then turn it off and on. Because of the room scenario, you might not want to have as much reverb in like the session. So you might take off all the reverb in your session and then like, you know, dial a little bit back in, you know, that kind of thing. So a lot of the live stuff that you do, you might want to like dumb down some of the effects as well, because it doesn't translate, you know.
Yeah, sure.
Like people who like, you know, go to like a live room and they got like their whole session is drenched in reverb, they're only gonna get feedback. Because like as soon as like you put reverb in a live room, like those systems can't take it, because it's like it's so loud that it's just feeding back. So you learn those kind of things as you go, and you know you leave a couple gigs going like, what the fuck happened, you know, and then you learn and you know, it's like it just takes time, you know, and a lot of it is like creative choices, a lot of it is like just circumstance, you know, that you just can't do certain things, you know. What do you guys think? You're like quiet over here. You're letting all the old folks talk. Yeah, man, what's up?
I noticed that your tracks are in stereo. Are you recording with 2 microphones?
So that's a good question. And It depends. So like for instance, like a lot of like these tracks right here, for instance, that we're looking at are in stereo because they're consolidated from Ableton. So this Rhodes sound, this guy right here, this was a VST. Sounds like a really dope Rhodes, but that's like native instruments, you know. So I can, after I performed that whole thing with the VST, with the fake instrument, I consolidated. And Ableton, you can set it to either consolidate as stereo or mono. I decided to consolidate as stereo because I had like, there's like some movement in that Rhodes sound that I didn't want to lose, that I wanted to be able to accent. You can manipulate stereo a lot deeper in some ways, especially if you're dealing with panning, you know, where you want like the sound to kind of move from like one speaker to the other to create that motion.
Is there not a way to do that in Ableton?
What's that?
Because
is there a what?
Is there not a way to pan the audio yourself if it's mono?
No, you can.
Oh, okay.
You totally can. All I'm saying is if it's in stereo, you have more, like, I'm trying to dumb it down as much as I can. You just have more options. If it's already like this, then it's like the difference between it being like this and moving like a snake and being like this and moving like a wave. You know what I mean? If you want to have like that motion. So a lot of the stuff I'll choose to consolidate into stereo for that specific purpose. But then, you know, like when I'm like all of the saxophone stuff that I'll record, I record that mono. You know, a lot of times, not for this particular bass, but a lot of bass sounds, I'll like either like consolidate into stereo, or I'll put what's called a utility on it. Like I'll put this guy on it, and then I'll press mono, so that it's actually coming out mono. You know, a lot of the bass sounds you want to have mono because you want it to be like kind of in one place, kind of like just holding it down, right? So like, you know, it depends. It's all a creative choice at the end of the day. You might like your like Rhodes sound to be in mono, you know, like how that sits in your mix, that kind of thing. So it's really like, you know, at the end of the day, the most important word that you can like kind of leave with is possibilities. There's so many possibilities, and there's no right or wrong. It's all about what you like, you know, and like finding a way to execute that. And the great thing is for you guys, you're jazz musicians, you know, so you have like a facility that a lot of producers, a lot of like DJs, a lot of like just instrumentalists in general won't have. And that's a creative aspect of improvisation, you know, and with improvisation comes like this idea of trust. You trust like your moment to moment, right? You know, that's what improvisation is all about, like trusting the moment to moment. There are no wrong notes, you know, as Herbie Hancock would say. You know, so like in the same sense, it's like, you know, whatever it is that you decide, it's just a matter of like, how do you want to use it? You know what I mean? So, you know, as technical as we can get, really, the most important thing is the possibilities and being able to like use the possibility that you have, the decisions that you make to create the music that you want. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, word. That's what's up. Anybody else?
I got a question.
What's up?
Can you talk a little bit about how you get a team together for specific deadlines? Like you talked about your project. Well, I want to know like how you got it together to where you have specific deadlines on each part of the project.
Yeah. It's become it's always a work in progress. And for me, it was, really important to, like when I was doing EDM music, I had like one person that I was working with throughout that whole process. When I started FKAJazz, I slowly created a team around me, which started literally most of Stereotype Threat, my first record under FKAJazz, I like produced all on my own. And then I started meeting people on the scene that were doing the specific music that I was doing. I started working more in like the funk and like hip hop world in New York, and started meeting people through that. And so like it was like, oh, okay, Marcus Machado, I'm gonna get you on this song. I'll send him the audio. Like, here's what it is right now, add some guitar, and like, for the most part, most people that I work with, the reason why I work with them is because they have like some kind of like setup at home where I can like then ask them to like put in, like the drummer that's in my collective, he went to school for engineering and knows how to mic and like record his own drums. So like a lot of it, he's on like 11 of the 14 songs that I put out on my last record. And a lot of that was I would produce a song, I would have like mock drums in there to like kind of give him an idea of what it is I want, how I wanted him to manipulate the groove. So I would create a demo and then send him an audio file with the demo fully stocked, and then another audio file without the drums in it, and he would record over that part, and I would get like, I'll show you an example actually.
Well, did you use like a contract for these like people that you had in your team?
A contract?
Yeah, like did you have them sign contracts like stating this needs to be done like at this time and this time,
No.
anything like that?
No. And I think you could get to that level of doing things, but it might not be the best scenario, like as far as like what you end up getting out of that creative process. In some cases, you want to be careful and letting people know. I mean, you always want to be careful and letting people know, here's the deal. You know what I mean? As far as like when it comes to like royalty splits, how much they're getting paid to do the project, or whether they're getting paid on the front end or back end, if that makes sense. Like, in other words, like if they're getting paid up front, or if like they're like investing their time into a project that they then get money from as the money is generated through that income. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff you want to be straight up and forefront and upfront about right away. But the creative process, I'm usually very chill about, because I don't want to put pressure on, for instance, my drummer, or put pressure on like a guitar player, or whoever it is that I'm working with, because that can get in the way of the type of vibe that you're trying to create in creating music, So for the most part, man, I'll hit up my boy and be like, yo, like I have this new track, and like, I want you to play drums on it, and like he'll be like, cool, I'll be able to get to it by the weekend. And then that's the case. I don't work with unreliable people. That's just like kind of...
Yeah, that's a good point, because like you don't want it to where like they said they were going to do something and
Yeah.
they don't hit you back, or like, oh, something got in the way, and then you're like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to make a project here, dude.
Exactly. So I mean, at the end of the day, it kind of boils down to that. You weed out the people that are unreliable, and you work with the people that are. It's just like, that's just kind of the way it is. And when you're like really young, it's difficult if you're focused on something specific, and you're trying to work with people that are maybe like all over the place. But at the end of the day, it's the people that are focused that will like continue to like create and the people that are all over the place, that will just continuously be all over the place and never get anything done. You know?
But on the other hand, if one of your tracks or something just hits, it's a monetary success.
Yeah.
And all those people that were involved with your
Yeah.
project start coming out of the woodwork. So it's kind of like, you need to be kind of clear about like, well,
that's what I said.
Did I pay you up front, or
Yeah.
you know, are you sharing the royalties, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, whatever. So
Exactly.
It's kind of a sticky situation because, you know, you don't want to get into those issues like in the early stages and you're just kind of asking people for favors and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But
Well, what I do is exactly that. I tell them up front, like, this is back in pay. You know, in other words, like when I make the money back on the investment that, you know, I've created, and then there's actual profit, that's when, you know, things get divvied out. And I have people sign contracts, but after the music is done. Because you never know. Like, for instance, like, I had like, there were a couple of songs on my record, or there were a couple of songs that I produced for the record that didn't make the record. You know, why would I make a contract for that unless I have a clear understanding of what I'm using the material for? You know, it's kind of like, it's a little premature to like then have people sign contracts. And, you know, there's another song where like, you know, I had someone just do like some like simple guitar stuff on, but then I decided at the last minute to take it out. You know, why would I have him sign a contract? You know, so it's like, I wait until like the project is done before it's released, but the project is done to like then go into those specifics, because you never know what your project's gonna look like at the end. You're only, you know, you don't want to get caught up into that when you're just trying to make music. You want to be like, you know, clear about, you know, obviously like, I'm not giving you $100 to be on this track or giving you $1,000 to be on the whole album, whatever. You're, you know, you want to be clear about that. But when it comes down to like then royalties and what your share is, you know, I'm not, if I gave a guitar player I gave him a contract that says he's going to get 10% of all royalties, but then I end up not putting him on the track, that's like kind of silly, right? Mm-hmm. So that, yeah, you want to be clear about. And yeah, man, I could talk about music business like all day. So if you have more questions about that, please, yeah, because you know that's also, I don't know, maybe now, but like I wasn't taught that stuff in school, you know. So like you know, as far as music business, it was like a live and learn situation, and
it's changed a lot too since I was on.
That's true.
In my time. You know.
Yeah, most stuff.
What about like as far as all the samples and stuff that you use?
All my samples are my samples, you know. Even the stuff
that you found at a big bank. So is it like it's like a royalty free? You said that you've been collecting and stuff.
Yeah, but those, so like for instance, like most of the stuff that I collect are either royalty free, or if you manipulate any sample in any way, it's all of it's automatically yours at that point. The only time that's not the case is if it's like a vocal sample, or if it's like, you know, an actual motif that you stole from like a record, you know, from a published record. But like the samples that I use, for instance, like that's like saying like if I use like, because for instance like a VST is literally like, you know, if I use a VST of a Rhodes, right? That's literally someone played each note and then I'm playing now that MIDI, you know, which is like spewing out the samples of a Rhodes keyboard, right? Like, you know, I only had to pay Native Instrument once to be able to use that sample, and then now I can use it for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? So it's in the same way. As soon as I manipulate a sample, like the drum samples, for instance, as soon as I manipulate them, arrange them in a way that's like specific to a song that I'm creating, that becomes yours. You know what I mean? So, you know, yeah. you're never gonna get a knock on the door, you know, for anything.
Unless you got a good lawyer.
You're like,
Hey, man, we should
that
probably
bass
start-
drum is from like, you know,
Yeah,
what,
well,
19?
you know, if there's money made, there'll be somebody coming up with it.
That's what's up.
We're kind of getting to the end. I've been bragging about your saxophone playing, man. Would you mind playing sax to something that you might have prepared?
Sure.
Or
I was not expecting that. I almost didn't
Oh.
even bring my saxophone.
Oh,
But sure,
yeah, I
yeah.
see it sitting there. I figured you wanted.
Yeah.
No, he's a fantastic saxophone player.
Cool, yeah, I'll play something. You put me on the spot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, maybe it's something you prepared, you know, when you were able to play.
I haven't prepared anything, but I do have like. Thinking about what I'm gonna play now.
You don't have to, man.
I mean, you know, you can't tell me. Now I'm like, I want to play. Just have to think about it. Make it short, yeah. Super short. And I can give me a chance to warm
Stuff
up.
we played at the, what was the hotel? The Ace Hotel.
Oh, Ace Hotel. We just ate brunch there. That stuff is not on my computer anymore. That's way too old.
Did you need read for that?
Let's see.
No, I'm just wondering if I should get Ableton, because everybody, you know, talks about Ableton as opposed to Logic.
Killing, man.
You know?
I mean, it's
better for live performance, right?
It is, man. I mean, anything else like is almost a joke, man. When it comes to like being able to produce and then put it on stage, you know. So
You can create loops and stuff like that.
yeah. Let's see. I'll just loop something from here because I did not prepare anything. Huh?
Do you use Max MSP for anything?
No, I don't. Yeah. Although it's killing, I just like I didn't buy it, and I don't have like any use for it at this moment, you know.
How much is Ableton?
It's very expensive.
Right now, it's I just bought it. It's $550 for the suite.
Yeah.
100, 400, or 550, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just bought the whole suite.
At this point, I've been
That's the big
upgrading, like, so I don't have to pay like the full thing. But when I first paid for Ableton, it was like $800. Now it's a lot cheaper, yeah. Which you know. it
Yeah,
is what it is.
definitely use your student discount.
Years ago as a student, and then to upgrade was more expensive than to just buy it as a student.
That's true. I did not.
Upgrade.
Yeah.
So for instance, Logic Pro was a very expensive program when it first came out. Now it's like $199.
Exactly. You know.
But I heard there was some kind of component to that. It's called, I don't know. It turns it into sort of an Ableton kind of situation.
Yeah. See, that's hybrid shit that like.
Yeah, right.
You know,
That
while they're
program
trying to
sucks.
figure out how to create Ableton with their program, Ableton is like continuously moving forward. You know. Yeah, exactly. So I guess I should take the saxophone out of this. I haven't played my saxophone at all today.
touch that land. It only grows taller, fertilize these strands. So germinate and pollinate and let us stand. I'ma let that be. See the gifting of your presence is real. I gotta clear it, erase it, bring matter of space. We don't know. Come propeller with your fella. See how far we go. Spend a week is this time. Shows and reminisce. Best assist. You throwing your lips to kiss. We pass this shit. Graduate to soul and sing. Intertwining in the mind and those confusing shit. Maybe life, that's all we have in sight. Love someone this night, it's melted by your sight. Long as we in the fight, never left cause you my right. The highest loving you sing.
Kind of works, right?
I like about that, man. We can see on the screen
Yeah,
where the song's going. You know?
Yeah, that's what's up,
I
man.
see that fade coming up, you know?
Yeah, there it is. That
That's
was
great,
it.
man. Well, that was wonderful, man. I learned a lot.
Thank you guys. Appreciate you.